Have you ever trusted someone so much that you never imagined they would one day become your opponent in court? Sometimes, the people we know for years can become strangers overnight. A simple favor can turn into a painful disagreement, and a friendship built over many years can disappear in just a few weeks. Today's story is about two women who believed they understood each other, but after living under the same roof, everything changed. What began as an act of kindness ended with accusations, missing belongings, and a courtroom battle where every word mattered. Imagine moving into the home of someone you've known for years. You believe you're entering a safe place where you can focus on rebuilding your life. You agree to pay rent, respect the house rules, and help create a peaceful living arrangement. First, everything seems normal. The conversations are friendly, and there is hope that the arrangement will benefit both sides. But life rarely follows the plan we imagine. Only a short time after moving in, tension begins to grow. Small disagreements become larger arguments. Personal history, emotions, and misunderstandings slowly replace trust. Every conversation feels more uncomfortable than the last. What was once a friendship starts turning into a relationship filled with suspicion. One day, everything reaches a breaking point. One person believes she has been unfairly forced out of the home. The other insists she simply asked her roommate to leave after giving proper notice. Each side believes the truth is obvious, yet their stories are completely different. As the disagreement grows, access to the property becomes impossible for the former roommate. She says she cannot even return to collect her belongings. Imagine standing outside a place where your personal possessions remain inside while you're unable to enter. The frustration would be overwhelming. Family photographs, clothing, personal documents, jewelry, and treasured memories all remain somewhere beyond a locked door. Eventually, arrangements are made for her to retrieve what is left of her belongings. Instead of returning alone, she arrives with transportation large enough to carry everything and with authorities present to keep the situation peaceful. By now, trust has completely disappeared. Every item matters because each side fears another argument may begin. She begins asking herself difficult questions. Did she accidentally leave it somewhere else? Was it misplaced during the move? Or did someone intentionally take it? These questions become the center of the dispute. From her perspective, the answer seems obvious. She believes the jewelry disappeared while it remained inside the house. To her, there are very few possible explanations. Since she no longer had access to the property, she feels someone else must be responsible. The homeowner strongly disagrees. She insists that she never stole anything and that every item she was responsible for was returned. In her view, accusations without proof are unfair and damaging. She believes she is being blamed simply because the friendship ended badly. Now imagine sitting in a courtroom where emotions are high but emotions alone cannot decide a case. Judges do not rule based on feelings, assumptions, or personal beliefs. They rely on facts, documents, evidence, and credibility. This is where many civil disputes become difficult. Even if someone sincerely believes they were wronged, belief alone is rarely enough. The judge carefully listens as each side explains what happened. Instead of focusing on old arguments or personal drama, attention quickly shifts toward one critical question. What evidence actually exists? This is often the most challenging part of any legal dispute. Anyone can make an accusation, but proving that accusation requires something much stronger than confidence. Receipts, photographs, witness statements, security footage, written agreements, and documented communication can all become important pieces of evidence. The judge begins separating emotional claims from verifiable facts. Were payments actually made? Was there a rental agreement? When did the tenant move in? When did she leave? Who had access to the property? At what point was the missing jewelry first noticed? Every answer matters because timelines often reveal details that emotions can hide. As both sides continue explaining their version of events, viewers quickly realize that this case is no longer just about jewelry. It is about responsibility, trust, and the importance of protecting yourself whenever you share a home with someone else, even a longtime friend. Many people assume that friendships eliminate the need for written agreements. Unfortunately, Situations like this demonstrate exactly why documentation matters. Even close friends can remember the same events very differently once conflict begins. Sometimes, neither person intends for things to become so complicated. Miscommunication grows little by little until every conversation feels like another argument. Before long, both sides become convinced that only they are telling the truth. The courtroom becomes the place where those conflicting stories are tested, not by emotion, but by evidence. And as the hearing continues, one question remains unanswered. Can the missing jewelry actually be linked to the homeowner? Or is there simply not enough proof to support the accusation? That single question will determine everything. The courtroom grows quieter as everyone waits for the next exchange. At this stage, the case is no longer about who speaks the loudest or who appears more emotional. The judge wants facts. Every answer is measured against the timeline, and every detail is examined carefully. The former tenant explains that she trusted her friend completely when she moved into the house. They had known each other for years, so she never imagined that living together would end their friendship. She says she paid rent as agreed and believed everything was going well during the first few weeks. But as time passed, disagreements became more frequent. Conversations that once felt friendly suddenly became uncomfortable, and the atmosphere inside the home changed. She describes feeling unwelcome. According to her, the relationship became so strained that she eventually found herself unable to return to the property whenever she wanted. She insists that being denied access left her worried because many of her personal belongings were still inside the house. Instead of focusing on where the friendship had gone wrong, she keeps returning to the same point: her missing jewelry. The homeowner tells a completely different story. She says she never intended to keep anyone's belongings and had no reason to take expensive jewelry. From her perspective, she simply wanted the living arrangement to end peacefully. She argues that every item she could locate was gathered together so the former tenant could collect it. She believes the accusations are based on assumptions rather than evidence. The judge listens carefully without showing favoritism. Years of experience have taught her that two people can witness the same events and remember them very differently. That is why courts depend on proof instead of personal opinions. One by one, important questions are asked. Was there a written rental agreement? Was an inventory of belongings created before moving in? Did anyone take photographs of valuable items? Were there receipts proving ownership of the jewelry? Did any witness actually see someone remove the missing property? Unfortunately, the answers reveal a familiar problem. Much of the case depends on memory rather than documentation. The judge explains that courts cannot simply conclude that someone committed theft because property cannot be found. Valuable possessions are sometimes misplaced during stressful moves. Boxes are packed in a hurry. Items are accidentally left behind at hotels, vehicles, or storage units. Without direct evidence connecting another person to the missing items, reaching a legal conclusion becomes extremely difficult. The former tenant grows frustrated. From her point of view, there are very few possibilities. She believes the jewelry was inside the home before she left, and afterward it disappeared. To her, that feels like enough to identify the person responsible. But the legal system requires something more. Suspicion is not the same as proof. The judge reminds everyone in the courtroom that accusations carry serious consequences. If courts accepted every accusation without evidence, innocent people could easily be held responsible for things they never did. That is why the burden of proof is so important in civil disputes. As the hearing continues, viewers begin to understand that this case is teaching a lesson far bigger than one disagreement between former friends. It highlights the importance of protecting yourself whenever you share a home with someone else. Written agreements may seem unnecessary between friends, but they can prevent misunderstandings later. Keeping receipts for valuable belongings, photographing expensive items before moving, and documenting rent payments can save enormous amounts of stress if a dispute ever arises. The judge's questions become even more focused. She wants to know exactly when the jewelry was last seen. She asks whether anyone else had access to the property. She examines whether the timeline leaves room for other explanations. Every possibility must be considered before responsibility can be assigned. Both women remain convinced that they are telling the truth. Yet the courtroom reminds everyone watching that honesty alone does not always win a case. Evidence is what ultimately matters. As the hearing approaches its conclusion, tension fills the room. The final decision will not erase the broken friendship, but it will determine whether the legal claim has been proven. Sometimes the hardest truth to accept is that not every mystery can be solved inside a courtroom. One thing, however, becomes perfectly clear. A friendship that lasted for years has been destroyed in only a matter of weeks, leaving behind disappointment, mistrust, and lessons neither side will ever forget. As the hearing reaches its final stage, the entire courtroom becomes silent. Both women have shared their versions of the story, answered dozens of questions, and defended their actions. Now all eyes are on the judge. This is the moment when emotions step aside and the law takes over. The judge begins by explaining an important principle that applies to many civil cases. A person may genuinely believe something happened, but belief alone is not enough to prove a legal claim. Courts require evidence that is clear, reliable, and convincing. Without that evidence, it is impossible to hold someone legally responsible. The former tenant insists that her jewelry disappeared while it was still inside the home. She says she searched through every box after collecting her belongings and could not find the valuable items anywhere. She believes there is only one reasonable explanation. However, the judge carefully points out that no witness saw anyone take the jewelry. There are no photographs showing where the jewelry was stored before the move, no video recordings, and no documents proving exactly when it disappeared. Although her frustration is understandable, the court cannot make a decision based only on suspicion. The homeowner remains firm in her position. She repeats that she never stole anything and that she returned every item she could find. She explains that she wanted the situation to end peacefully and had no reason to keep someone else's personal property. While the friendship had clearly fallen apart, she argues that a damaged relationship does not automatically make someone guilty of theft. The judge reminds everyone that the courtroom is not a place for assumptions or personal revenge. It exists to examine facts. Every decision must be supported by evidence because justice depends on fairness, not emotion. If the court were to rule against someone without sufficient proof, it would create an unfair system where accusations alone could ruin lives. After reviewing everything presented, the judge explains that the claim regarding the missing jewelry has not been proven to the legal standard required in court. The evidence simply does not establish who, if anyone, took the items. As disappointing as that conclusion may be for the person who believes she suffered a loss, the law cannot fill in missing pieces with guesses. For both women, the outcome is bittersweet. One leaves feeling that justice was never fully achieved because her missing property remains unaccounted for. The other leaves knowing that although she was not found legally responsible, a friendship that once meant so much has been permanently broken. The story offers valuable lessons for anyone watching. First, never assume that a long friendship guarantees a successful living arrangement. Sharing a home changes relationships, introduces responsibilities, and can create conflicts that never existed before. Second, always document important agreements, even with people you trust. A written rental agreement, payment records, and photographs of valuable belongings can make an enormous difference if disagreements arise later. Finally, remember that in any legal dispute, evidence carries far more weight than emotion. Many viewers will have different opinions about what truly happened. Some may believe the former tenant deserved compensation. Others may feel the homeowner was unfairly accused. Without clear proof, each person must draw their own conclusions. That uncertainty is exactly what makes cases like this so fascinating. They remind us that the full truth is not always easy to uncover. If this story taught us anything, it is that trust is one of the most valuable things we can have, and once it is broken, rebuilding it is often impossible. A few weeks of conflict erased years of friendship, leaving behind questions that may never be answered. What do you think? Was the evidence strong enough? Or did the court make the right decision by relying only on the facts that could be proven? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your opinion and start a respectful discussion with our community. If you enjoyed this original courtroom story and want more real-life legal case breakdowns, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next upload. Thank you for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.